I think, should we get started?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'll get started. Or I'm sorry, actually, yeah, let me get started. So my name is Jillian Namath-Zeiger. I'm a planner in the Housing and Federal Grants Division at Marin County. And today we are joined by planners and building officials in several jurisdictions, as well as some guest speakers. So first, I'd like to give short introductions, and they're going to give longer introductions when we hear from them. But I'd first like to introduce our team from Baird and Driscoll. That's Joshua Abrams and Brandy Campbell Wood. They have been leading the charge on the workbook and website. There are consultants who've developed these great deliverables. And then we have Lindsay Moon from Searchlight Lending, and she'll be talking about finance. We have Ruth Lopez from Clam and Real Community Rentals, and she's going to be talking about renting out your ADU. And then we have um, planners and building officials from Ross, Mill Valley, and Fairfax tonight, and I will introduce them before the breakout rooms. In terms of tonight, we're going to go over general information about ADUs and what the new state laws are. We're going to go over the website and the resources for the website and how to get started when you're building an ADU, financing, talking with your city. And that's where you'll be able to go into a breakout room with your city planners and discuss specific questions you might have for your jurisdiction, and then renting or moving in. I also just want to say that I live in Fairfax, so this is a fun webinar for me to help host because, um, yeah, I see a lot of ADUs on my street already, but I'm encouraged by all of the people in Fairfax who are interested in building ADUs.
So before we get started, we just wanted to go over really briefly some Zoom housekeeping. If you have any questions about ADUs or the process or anything that you're wondering about, please submit them in the chat, and we're going to do our best to answer everybody's questions tonight. We also want to remind you to keep yourself muted. This will also be recorded and available later in case you missed something or you want to review something in detail after. It'll all be on the website, as will the other two webinars. We also wanted to let you know that there will be polls throughout because we want to get to know a little more about you, what your concerns and goals are. And when they pop up on your screen, scroll through the list, pick as many as are applicable, and we're going to start that right now.
Do you want to introduce the
Yeah,
poll?
great. So the first poll is, why are you joining us today? I'm interested in building an ADU because housing for my family, housing for the community, rental income, moving into an ADU, housing for caregivers or on-site assistance, or you're not sure yet, you're just interested.
Give everyone another couple seconds. Votes are still coming in. Jillian, do you want to summarize the results, or should I?
Yeah, sure. So it looks like 30% of the people are just interested, which is great. Not sure yet. There's 26% are interested in rental income or housing for my family. And then we have 7% housing for caregiver and 9% housing for the community.
What is an ADU? So let's make sure we all know what we're talking about. ADUs go by many names. Granny flats, converted garages, excuse me, basement apartments. But they're all the same thing. They're a small house that's adjacent to, next to, behind, above, below the main house. And what's cool about accessory dwelling units, right, is why we love them is because they're really flexible. One year they could be used for space for loved ones. Another year, a couple of years down the road, you might use them for housing for people who live in your community. Some people start renting and then they end up living in them, switching to living in the smaller house themselves. But there's a lot of flexibility there. There's a bunch of different types of ADUs. We kind of have them categorized like this. I think a lot of people think of a detached ADU as a little freestanding building. It could be new construction or it could be converting an existing structure. Attached shares a wall with the main house. A lot of times people will do some combination of a remodel in their house and an expansion and turn the expansion into the ADU, or part of the expansion into the ADU. Sometimes there's an interior conversion, the basement or the garage, where you turn that into finished space. Sorry, not the basement or the attic. Then there's a garage apartment, and then in some cases people do. In some cases, you're allowed to do an above or below garage apartment. And then there's a special category called junior accessory dwelling units. These are small. They have to be 500 square feet or less, and within the existing walls of the primary house. The advantage of them is that they can have just an efficiency kitchen, a smaller kitchen, though state law doesn't exactly define what that means, but we can go over it if you're interested. And they can share a bath. The disadvantage is the owner has to live in the house then, or in the JADU. So normal ADUs, there's no owner occupancy, but if you elect to call it a JADU, and that'll always be the homeowner's choice if you want to go the JADU route, you get a little bit of flexibility on the kitchen and the bathroom, but you then have that additional requirement that the owner has to live there. And then the good news is there's some really nice new state laws that make it easier for everyone to build an ADU, cut down on the cost and speed up the process. ADUs are allowed in every city, and HOAs, homeowners associations, aren't allowed to ban ADUs entirely. There's no impact fees if they're under 750 square feet. There might still be some inspection fees and plan check fees, but they're usually a lot less than impact fees. So that's a really nice savings. If the unit's built between now and 2025, there'll never be owner occupancy rules unless it's a JADU. So you can always rent it or rent the two units separately. In most cases, there's no additional parking requirement. At the most, there would be one additional parking spot. And if you convert your garage, you don't have to make up that space in your garage. There's a lot of buildings you can now easily convert automatically, no matter where they are on your property. And that's, someone asked about a pool house. So a pool house would be one example of that, where you can convert a pool house to an ADU space. And then if not that anyone would ever do that, but if you built an ADU without permits, there's now a 5-year grace period where you can go to the city and you have 5 years to bring it fully up to code without any penalties. And the only thing cities are allowed to look for, according to state law, is emergency life safety rules. We can answer more about that in the Q&A too, but that's like if they see a major electrical problem or other things like that, and they will make you address those. There's a little bit of a challenge that some cities interpret what are major life safety issues differently than others. Some are a little more strict. That'll be a city by city decision. Put your questions in the chat if you want us to go on about that. That brings us to poll number 2.
All right,
And
so
also,
what type of, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and we meant to change these so you could do multiple choice, and we forgot. And so you could only do one. We're sorry about that.
Okay, so what type of ADU are you interested in? Detached new construction, attached new construction, remodel or expansion, interior conversion, garage apartment / pool house, above or below garage, JADU, or not sure yet.
Give everyone a minute. All right, I'm going to end that poll and share results.
Okay, so it looks like detached new construction at 48%, and then not sure yet at 14, above or below garage, and then we have between 2 to 7% for the rest of the typologies.
Who's doing it? No, I'm sorry. I forget
Jillian.
Jillian.
Oh, so a little bit about Edu Marin. So it's a great resource. The website has, it's really just meant to help homeowners build more ADUs. And we have 10 cities and towns and the county participating. I'm going to introduce the city and town representatives. This is
The
okay.
wrong list, sorry.
It's okay. So for Mill Valley, we have Danielle Stouty. She's a senior planner at the city of Mill Valley. For Fairfax, we have Linda Neal, who's a senior planner with Fairfax, Ben Berto, the planning director, and then we also have Mark Lockaby, who's the building official. For Ross, I'm not sure if Eric is on the line. I know the planning director had a family emergency, but if for some reason we can't get the building official for Ross, I'm happy to answer the questions on behalf of the unincorporated county for people in Ross.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about what all of the ADU Marin resources include. The first thing, which is available right now, is our website. And you will find that it's a really helpful guide to walk you through every step of the process. We tried to really simplify it as much as possible. So you'll find with both the website and the upcoming workbook, it's kind of broken into, I'm looking for inspiration. That'll have a bunch of sample floor plans and photos, as well as homeowner stories from other folks that build ADUs in Marin County. The next category is I'm thinking about building. So you can just explore a little more about what an ADU is, the types that are available, and also city rules for your specific city. And then when you're ready, it'll help walk you through the whole process from, you know, how thinking about your design and going and talking about the rules with the city, and then finally getting you to the point where you're constructing. So there's also a really great calculator available, and it allows you to get an estimate, a rough estimate based on your city and the type of ADU you're considering building, on what possibly your monthly rent might be, as well as what the construction costs and monthly expenses will be. Again, I said the workbook will be available shortly, probably within the next few weeks. And if you sign up with us on the website for a notification, we'll let you know as soon as that is available. There will be physical hard copies available at all the participating cities and towns, as well as the county. And you will also be able to download it for free or view it for free on the website. So with that, I wanted to show you actually one of our homeowner stories that is on the website. This is just an example for every homeowner story. And in additionally to a lot of other ADUs, we not only show you the photos, but we show you examples of the floor plans, which can really help you when you're trying to figure out what might be the best thing for you. And this is actually what the website will look like. Really quickly, I'm just going to show you. So as you see, the really simple navigation, get inspired, I'm thinking about it. We also have an ADU glossary, floor plans, any upcoming events. The I'm ready section will take you through complete prep work checklist, what you need to consider when hiring a team, all kinds of great information. And in the get inspired, what you'll see is a bunch of great homeowner stories. And we wanted to show you Jane and Doug's.
Being in Mill Valley reminds me of being in Fairfax when I was growing up as a kid, with the trees, the redwood trees, and the people. It's got a sort of a hippie vibe to it, which I like a lot.
The housing costs are too high.
Yeah.
From what I understand, a studio apartment like we have, we could easily rent it for twice what we ask.
Oh, Jane,
Well, I don't know. I haven't checked recently.
we
But-
could rent it today for 5 times what
Well-
we were charging.
He's given to wild exaggerations.
But I'm right.
But that's part of the purpose. I mean, if we were to put the rent that high, we would be renting to a young professional and not someone who might need housing because they're commuting to a job here. Our local market is very low-key. We know the Checkers, they know us. That's how we got our current tenant. The Checkers said, "Is it true your unit is open?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "We have a new worker here that needs a place to stay. He's commuting an hour and a half each way." And so we met Stuart. He came highly recommended through the market.
The commute from Novato to work, it took some time, over an hour, 2 buses. If I missed my bus, I'd have to wait another hour for the bus to come by. So I was late often to work. So being here with a 10-minute walk to work is much more convenient, provides a consistency that gives me a little bit more comfort as far as having a place to call my own, a place to stay.
That room that is now the ADU was our pool table room down there. And it was great attraction to our 3 sons and their friends. Then they eventually grew up and went to college and did not come back to home after college. And so we weren't using that room. And we were aware even then of a shortage of housing in Marin.
I wish there was more people like Jane so that the world can see what we can do, together to solve whatever it is we need to solve.
I just feel it's part of my civic responsibility. I have the space, I'm not using it. I can easily make it available and help somebody else. And just different socioeconomic groups, different racial and ethnic groups makes a community infinitely more interesting.
So that was Jane and Doug's story, and we have a few other great Marin County stories up on the website. I wanted to do a quick process overview. This is very high level, but we just wanted to simplify it as much as possible and streamline it. And it's reflected in the website and workbook as well. So the first step of when you're thinking about building an ADU is really just getting started. It's the most important step and usually the hardest one to get into. So basically you want to think about what kind of ADU you want to build at this step. And it can be helpful to look at photos and floor plan examples and also hear stories like Jane and Doug's who have built in your community. And all of these are available on our website as well as in the upcoming workbook. We also have a lot of exercises that will really help you identify what your goals are and what matters to you. The next step is really design. So you're going to want to think about what do you want to do and what does that look like? And we really recommend talking to professionals, talking to people at the city, maybe having an informal conversation with a contractor or a designer that you know to figure out what is the best thing for you. You'll also want to consider your budget. And one word of advice, try not to get too fixed on a specific plan or budget figure. Design and material choices can really add up and surprise costs are not uncommon So identifying ballpark figures and not being beholden to final designs early on will really help you later on. And I did mention we recommend talking to your city, and I just really want to emphasize this, and I know you'll hear it from all of your planning and building professionals in the breakout rooms, but they're really there to help you. They're welcome. They want you to come in. That's why they all participated in ADU Marin, and they're really there to help you think about how to do this. Finally, or not finally, permits and construction is the next phase. So again, you're going to want to talk with your city about that. If you hire a builder and designer or a design build team, they'll help you through this whole process and manage it. So that is always a benefit. And then finally, you're going to want to rent or move in. And we actually have someone today that's going to be speaking to that, what to consider when you're a landlord and what those options are. I did want to just dive a little bit into this. I kind of already did. But again, like when you're getting started, you really want to think about what you want to build and identify that. You want to make your budget. You want to learn the local rules and talk to city officials and then hire that team. And I have here the main two ways to do that would be site build or prefab are your construction options. You can do a bunch of different combos. You can hire a design build team. You can hire a prefab company that builds most of that offsite. And there's a bunch of, combos in between that. So our resources really walk you through what those possibilities are, as well as define them to help you navigate through the process. And here's our third poll. Jillian?
Let me unmute myself. What obstacles do you think there are for you to build an ADU? The permit and approval process, building process, costs, issues with your property, issues with your neighbors, being a landlord, or maintenance. Okay, so it looks like most people think the biggest obstacle is the permit and approval process. Second is cost. And then issues with your property, with your neighbors are tied, and less concern about the building process and being a landlord. So now we're going to talk about financing. I'll let Lindsay Moon introduce yourself and talk a little bit more about financing.
Thanks, Jillian. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us all tonight. And just briefly about myself, I'm a licensed mortgage broker with Searchlight Lending, and we're based right on 4th Street in San Rafael, the old pool hall building. I'm sure everyone knows when I say that, or most. And I'm mainly, though, working from home these days in Novato. I've lived in Marin for 20 years, and I am a real advocate for affordable housing in general. I serve on a nonprofit, the Casita Coalition, and I really am excited about ADUs and their potential to help solve for so many of our housing crises. And so I'm happy to be a part of this. And I'm also a builder as well, and I really believe in modular and prefab ways of construction are a really strong way to go, especially for ADUs. And so that said, your home is your greatest asset, and hopefully you do have some equity in that home. The best and easiest way to fund financing of an ADU, I mean, off the bat, first of all, friends and family, if you can get a no interest loan from someone, it does increase the value of your home tremendously. It's a long-term investment though, and it is expensive. If it was a lot cheaper, you'd have people lined up and down your block doing this. But I did see in the survey that many of you want a freestanding structure. That's still building a new home. You're still going ground up, and every trade is involved. So it ain't cheap, but it does give you good return. So that said, if you can get a loan from friends or family, that would be ideal. But if not, then utilizing the equity, you can either do what we call a HELOC, or a home equity line of credit, which is kind of like a credit card where you are approved for a certain line depending on the equity that you have, and you're not charged anything on it until you actually use it, and you pay it back if and when you do use it, versus a cash out refinance. Rates are super low right now. I'm doing a lot of refinances just to get people into a lower term, but if pulling out cash out is also not very expensive. So a lot of people, I have clients that are doing a cash out refinance in order to fund the ADU. And once it is built and you do have that higher value, you may want to think about refinancing again into a rate and term product rather than a cash out product. It's all based on the market though, and you should always consult. Everyone's situation is so different, so it's always best to consult a mortgage broker. I'm an independent mortgage broker, so we are not affiliated with any one bank. We are able to shop for our clients and find the best rates, which is a great benefit in an independent broker. The other couple of lending options that you can think about, there is the construction loan or renovation loan. There can be a few drawbacks with it, but it can also be of great benefit. But I know that right now there are some difficulties with finding banks that will lend on specifically an ADU when it comes to construction. So that said, there are a few riskier options that, we do recognize that you should proceed with caution. But actually, private money is not a bad alternative, especially if you are able to do it with modular or prefab and build quicker. Reverse mortgages, I know they have stigmas, but for those that are 62 and older, I highly encourage you to consult with a CPA or a financial advisor, but a reverse mortgage can help a lot of people in the right situation. And a company rent share is also a bit risky, and it's not for everybody, but it can be of great benefit. A company will come in and basically build your ADU for you, your hands off, but they get to then rent it out for the next, say, 12 years. You get a say in who that renter is, but they're the ones maintaining it, say, for about 12 years, and then you get the general rights to it. So that may work for some, but not all people. Next slide, Jillian. So you're likely going to find yourselves in one of these kind of 4 brackets here. So depending on where you are, there are different options for you to consider. But again, really, it's best to consult with a mortgage broker, a financial advisor, somebody that can listen to your specific scenario and maybe give you options as to what is the best situation for you. Some of you will be high home equity, high income, and then on the other end, some may be low home equity, low income. There may be some frustration in finding some financing options for those that may not have enough equity or enough income or both. There are some things in the works that actually people that are in the Casita Coalition and different coalitions here trying to push affordable housing. They are attempting to really change the way that we do this, and perhaps there might be down the line a state-backed option for an ADU, which would be a great option for those that might be in that situation. So stand by, listen. There's a lot of legislation coming down the pipeline at this time, so that there isn't really anything available yet, but I'm hoping that in the future there might be. And next slide, thank you. The last thing I should mention about financing right now, if you do want to bite off a loan of any sort, is just to be prepared. Rates are fantastic, as I said, but scrutiny is high. Lenders are being extra cautious because of the market and because of the state things are in. It's quite volatile, as we all know. And so just be prepared to spend some time. And it's a really good idea to start planning early. Like if you're thinking, you know, right now we're going into November, there's a lot of moratoriums on buildings. So, you know, if you're thinking about spring, get ducks in a row, and really do start your planning. So again, there are independent brokers like myself, and there's a great benefit there. I'm not tied to one bank and I'm able to shop for that client. But a bank, I'm not saying is not a place to go. A bank that where you might have all of your accounts and you have a long-standing track record might actually be able to even offer you a better rate than I can. And I'm going to be honest about my rates, and an independent broker is licensed just like a realtor, and so we take our jobs very seriously. So talk to someone, consider the different options out there, and you never also want to don't hesitate to contact a local realtor or look at comp listings and kind of see where the market is in your neighborhood. And I'll be answering questions at the end, and my information will be at the end, so I'm happy to help. But I know that, you know, scenarios and people's financial information is pretty personal, so please feel free to reach out to me afterwards.
Thanks, Lindsay. Okay, so let's do another poll. I'd like more information about financing my ADU by cash savings or liquid assets, cash out refinance, loans from friends or family, home equity loans or renovation, or other. And I'm seeing some questions in the chat box related to finance, which is great. We'll start with some of those.
Pardon me. Just wanted to ask, is it legal to build on raw land in ADU?
Nicholas, we will talk about this. We can answer that question when we get to the Q&A.
Thank you.